So in a few weeks, I am going to be starting a course on doing magic related to the grimoires of magic. And this is going to be a course on my specific approach to this kind of work, which is a little bit different than sort of your traditionalists' fairs. I've got a somewhat more modern approach to things, as well as sort of a more modern use for these things. Now, some of you may or may not know this, but I have been creating magical objects for almost as long as I've been writing books on the subject. Actually, technically for longer, although they basically started at the same time. My publishing began 3 or 4 years after my actual making of objects. My first Sigillum Deum was made in 1997, and I have been making them steadily ever since. I probably have made 10,000 or so Sigillum Deum in my life. So I would say I'm probably the largest supplier of those to the occult market ever. In fact, I may be the largest supplier of occult objects in general to the market. And so now I want to teach a course that sort of shares my take on things. Now, I've made a lot of different stuff. I've made magical rings. I've made magical talismans. I've made a number of different scrying devices of various shapes and sizes over the years, but I've never really offered a course on how I personally would recommend approaching the magic of these things, other than just giving the sort of the grimoire instructions. Now, I've published a book along with each of my scrying devices that gives some of my ideas on how I would recommend approaching things, but it stays mostly to the traditional. And this course is going to cover that traditional stuff as well, although it's going to give you some ways in which that you can approach it that might make things a little bit more streamlined for you and ultimately more successful. Because the more magic that you do, the more magic that you're going to succeed with. And if you have to take months and months and months to prepare for every single operation, it's going to be a long time before you get very much experience. So I created a sort of a list here of a number of topics. This isn't the only topics that are going to be discussed, but this is a number of topics that are going to be discussed in my course that you probably won't see in a whole lot of other courses on magic in general and the grimoires in particular. First of all, how the grimoires are still relevant in magical work today, how the grimoires have become somewhat irrelevant in magical work today. Why having a lot of beliefs about stuff related to magic before you get started is really pretty limiting and doesn't often bring you towards where you want to go. Very often belief is used as a tool within magic, but it's one that has a second blade too if you're not careful. So how the historical importance of the grimoires has been distorted, how not all grimoires are created equal. How best to approach beings from multiple grimoires. Can you mix and match in your rituals? The spirit model, the energy model, and the consciousness model, how they are not really in opposition to one another at all. How those who seek to find opposition in those spiritual models are largely not really magicians at all. They are purveyors of belief rather than magicians, I would argue. And if you want to know why I argue that, then you can check out my course. How all magic is synthetic and has always combined multiple methods since the earliest records. How astrology empowers, but also limits grimoire magic. How there are many errors and omissions riddled throughout the grimoires, so it is really silly to say that they offer something that is more legitimate than any other form of magic. How the real purpose of the triangle of the art has been distorted a number of different times in a number of different ways. How the regalian instruments that you should have for ceremonial success, along with as well the ceremonial instruments that are required absolutely for ceremonial success. I'm going to teach you the easiest method of spirit communication. I'm going to teach you the relationship between spirit magic and shamanism, as well as the relationship between spirit magic and ancestral work. These are topics that are discussed often in other grimoire magic courses, but I don't think that they're discussed correctly. most of the time. How to work with, this is an important one for modern people. Now, this is something that's irrelevant if you are a practicing Christian who really believes that your religion is the sole arbiter of truth. Then this section is questionable. However, I would also argue that your practice of magic is questionable, since you shouldn't really be required to do that. If you're a devout Christian, you should be empowered by the Holy Spirit in the way that the Holy Spirit so chooses, and so your desire to practice magic is sort of kind of going against your religion from the very start. But how to work with spirits if you're an atheist, a pagan, or any other non-Christian, but interested in using grimoires, which are all Christian in orientation. And this is another thing that I don't think has really been covered by anybody else, but it's very important. How the conventional Christian mysticism of the monastic orders gives us several important insights into spirit work. This is very important and something that I never see anyone talking about. 7 ways that the so-called grimoire purists are incorrect in virtually all of their assumptions. And of course the related topic, why you never see grimoire purists carrying around bags of golds on the back of their demon servants, and why they are all instead just largely a bunch of normal middle class or lower class people. Why sacrifices and offerings to beings may be a bad idea. Altered states and visionary work, entheogens or psychedelics and visionary work. Why searching for the lost, secret, corrected, or ultimate word of power is a waste of your time, and instead a model of magic that empowers you. And finally, how you can truly succeed with your Grimoire Magick. Sign up for my course. I'm going to give you a link below. Sign up for my course and you're going to learn everything that I just discussed and more, and you're going to be glad that you did. I'll talk to you later.